Skipper Jim now there was a fella. Hair like a startled puffin, some would say. Always a grin stuck on his face, it was. Even when the fog was thick as pea soup. He knew the waters round here like his own hand. Every rock, every current, every secret spot. Jim was born with salt in his blood, yes be. His laugh could scare the gulls right out of the sky. A true Newfoundlander, heart big as the bay, ready for whatever the ocean might send his way. Then there was Paddy, Jim's right-hand man. Paddy wasn't as loud as Jim, not by half, but he was steady like a rock in a storm. He could fix an engine with spit and good wishes, and tell a yarn that would make your hair stand up. Paddy loved his tunes, he did, always humming something. A quiet fella, but his eyes saw everything, mind you. He and Jim, they were like two peas in a pod. Or maybe two fish in a boat, more like it. Couldn't imagine one without the other, no sir. Their boat, the Lucky Catch, she wasn't new, but Lord Tunderin, was she ever sturdy. Painted bright blue with a bit of red trim. She'd seen a few storms, that old dory had. Jim and Paddy treated her like a queen, nearly. This morning the sun was just peeking over the hills, painting the sky all pink and orange. It was lovely. A light breeze whispered across the water, cool and fresh. The gulls were already squawking, looking for breakfast. A perfect day for heading out, they both agreed. Jim fired up the old engine with a sputter and a roar. Paddy cast off the lines from the wharf, quick as a wink. The Lucky Catch chugged out of the harbor nice and slow, past the colorful houses clinging to the rocky cliffs. Waving to a few early risers on the shore they were. The smell of the salt air filled their lungs, a grand smell. They were headed for their favorite fishing grounds, you see. A bit of a ways out, but worth the trip, usually. Anticipation bubbled up like beer in a freshly poured glass. Another adventure on the big wide ocean was starting. The Lucky Catch sliced through the gentle morning swells, leaving a foamy white trail behind her in the blue. Jim was at the tiller, a pipe clenched in his teeth. Paddy was checking the nets and the lobster pots, making sure everything was shipshape and ready to go. They didn't talk much on the way out, not always. Just enjoyed the peace of the ocean, the wide open space. The rhythm of the engine was a familiar, comforting sound. Sun climbing higher now, warming their faces. Land was just a thin green line behind them now. After a good run, Jim cut the engine back some. "This looks like the spot, Paddy bye," he declared. Paddy nodded, peering down into the dark water. You could just feel it sometimes when the fish were there. A certain look to the water, a certain kind of quiet. They'd been coming to this area for years and years, knew its moods, its secrets, its hidden treasures. The boat rocked gently as they prepared their gear. Gulls circled overhead, hopeful for a stray bit of bait. Time to see what the day would bring them. Paddy grabbed the first lobster pot, heavy it was. He baited it with some fish scraps, nice and smelly. Then with a grunt, he heaved it over the side. Splash! Down it went to the murky depths below. They dropped a few more, spaced out just right. Jim kept the boat steady, watching the markers. Then they put out a few lines for cod, just for good measure. The waiting part was always a mix of hope and patience. Hoping for a big haul, but ready for whatever came. That's the life of a fisherman, full of unknowns. The sun was well up now, shining bright on the water. A few clouds drifted by, lazy-like in the blue sky. They pulled a couple of cod lines, a few decent fish. Good for supper, but not the bonanza they hoped for. Paddy leaned over the side, looking thoughtful he was. "Feels a bit different today, Jim," he said softly. "The water's got a strange kind of shimmer to it." Jim looked too, squinting against the sun's glare. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, no. But there was a peculiar stillness in the air for sure. After a while, Jim said, "Right then, let's try that first pot." Paddy grabbed the rope, his strong hands working sure. He started to pull, hand over hand, steady and strong. The rope came up, dripping with seawater and seaweed. "Feels a bit heavier than usual, this one," Paddy grunted. Jim watched, leaning forward with a bit of excitement. Could this be the start of a lucky streak today? The pot was coming into view now through the dark water. Dark shapes moved inside, bigger than they expected. Anticipation hung heavy in the salty air around them. Paddy finally swung the pot onto the deck with a thud. And Lord Lifton, they couldn't believe their eyes. Inside were lobsters all right, but not just any lobsters. These were monsters, the biggest they'd ever seen. Dark blue shells, claws like a wrestler's fists. One of them must have been 20 pounds, easy. "Saints and sinners, Jim," Paddy exclaimed, eyes wide. "Look at the size of these critters, never seen the like?" Jim just stared, his pipe nearly falling from his mouth. They'd hit the jackpot, or so it seemed for a moment. They were still goggling at the giant crustaceans, right? When the next pot came up, it was even heavier. Paddy strained, his face red with the effort. This one's got lead in its pockets, B! He gasped. As it broke the surface, they saw something unbelievable. Not just lobsters. Oh no, not this time, my son. Curled up amongst the seaweed were two mermaids. Yes, mermaids, with shimmering green tails and long flowing hair. They looked a bit startled, blinking in the sudden sunlight. Jim and Patty just stood there, mouths hanging open, speechless. One mermaid had hair like spun gold, the other like seaweed. Their eyes were wide and curious, like a deer's. They weren't thrashing about, just looking, a bit confused. Patty finally found his voice, a bit shaky it was. Well, B, I've seen a few things in my day, but this here takes the cake, and the whole bakery, too. Jim nodded slowly, a slow grin spreading on his face. Guess the stories are true after all, Patty, he chuckled. It was a moment of pure Newfoundland magic right there, out on the ocean with giant lobsters and actual mermaids. Well, what do you do with a pair of mermaids, eh? Jim and Patty, they weren't sure what to do at first. The mermaids seemed friendly enough, if a bit shy. They decided the best thing was to head for home. Carefully, they made the mermaids comfortable in a big tub, filled it with seawater to keep them happy like. The giant lobsters were safely stored away too, of course. The Lucky Catch turned back towards the cove, a bit faster now. News like this? Well, it couldn't wait for long. The lads were already thinking of the celebration ahead. Back at the cove, word spread like wildfire in a dry field. Jim and Patty caught what? Mermaids? Get out of it! But soon enough, everyone saw it was true. Yes, B. The whole village was buzzing with excitement and wonder. Someone got the accordion out, another fetched a fiddle. The kitchen in Jim's little house was quickly filled. Tables were laden with food, salt fish and brewis, teutons, and those magnificent lobsters ready for the pot. Beer bottles were opened with a cheerful hiss, a lovely sound. The stage was set for a proper Newfoundland time. The music started up, lively jigs and heartfelt ballads. Feet were stomping, hands were clapping, voices singing along. The mermaids, now in a bigger makeshift pool, watched with wide eyes. They seemed to enjoy the tunes, tapping their tails a bit. Patty, never one to miss a beat, passed around a little something, a bit of Newfoundland greenery to lift the spirits higher. He and Jim shared a puff, the sweet smoke mingling with the sea air. Laughter flowed as freely as the beer they were drinking. Stories were told, old ones and new ones, each better than the last. Life felt mighty grand in that little cove that night. The party went on late into the starlit night. Folk music filled the air, a joyful, rollicking sound, the taste of cold beer and the warmth of good company. Even the mermaids seemed to be smiling in their own way. Jim and Patty sat back, watching the happy scene, tired from the day, but hearts full to bursting. This was Newfoundland, this was home, this was life. Good friends, good tunes, a bit of magic from the sea. They wouldn't trade it for all the tea in China, no sir, just pure joy and camaraderie under the Newfoundland moon.